Hello everybody, it's great to be here today. As Mark's just said, my name is Joanna Gledhill and I'm the Director of Head First Coaching and Consulting Limited, and I'm saying hello all the way up from exotic Yorkshire, by gum love. I'm delighted to have the opportunity to talk to you today about my biggest passion, which is providing meaningful, and I stress the word meaningful, support for leaders in education. And when I say support, I mean real support. I've worked in education now for 26 years, and that includes 13 years in senior leadership roles. And as a former head teacher leading a school to outstanding, I know firsthand the pressures that are on head teachers, leaders across all levels, middle leaders, all the way up to the executive leaders in schools within the current education system. And now as a leadership coach and consultant, I coach leaders all across the country in schools and multi-academy trusts, helping them to navigate ever increasingly challenging and complex roles. I'm not sure how many of you here today are leaders in schools or how many of you are teachers or other colleagues, but what I'm about to share next, it will resonate with you. It's been an absolute privilege to work with heads and other senior leaders at PolyMAT this year through my Leadership Coach-sulting programme, which I'll talk about shortly. But first, I'd just like to share with you some unfortunately rather depressing and rather alarming statistics, but I'd say not surprising. So in 2021, the charity Education Support surveyed 3,000 educators, and their annual Teacher Wellbeing Index basically unfolded that 3/4 of teachers and 84% of senior leaders describe themselves as stressed, with 63% of senior leaders saying that they have considered leaving the profession within the next 2 years. Being a leader is challenging in any school without the added mix of COVID, and the hangover of COVID still continues today. Schools have faced huge challenges in terms of all sorts of things, having to adapt to ever-changing guidance, and added to this, staff shortages, the recovery curriculum and pressures of catch-up, alongside the usual pressures of Ofsted, etc., etc. So these statistics are not surprising. Over the last couple of years, schools have done an absolutely fantastic job of being incredibly adaptive, creative and resilient in striving for the best for their pupils and their families. However, educators are notoriously bad at putting their own oxygen mask on before helping those around them. Now, more than ever before, as well as supporting our children, it's absolutely high time to put the well-being of our educators first, and it's absolutely essential that all staff and school leaders are properly supported proactively, not reactively, through non-tokenistic, effective wellbeing policies and practices. And I'm really pleased to say that PolyMAT definitely recognises the importance of this, and I'm sure you'll find out more about all of that throughout the rest of this event. But in terms of the school leaders at PolyMAT, many of the senior leaders have been undergoing my Leadership Coach-sulting programme, and this is a way in which leaders are valued and supported and helped along their journey. Leaders at PolyMAT undergoing the Leadership Coach-sulting programme have been able to develop as leaders, tackle school improvement priorities and problem solve, and also look at their own well-being and strategies around that through an approach that really provides meaningful and real support. The programme provides leaders with regular, confidential and a safe space for their own dedicated coach and consultant who is solution focused and impartial, unbiased and non-judgmental. And with no agenda, it's a totally different experience for leaders. And I can confidently say that it's the external independent bit that works. Before leaders come to their first session, they are sent a task to reflect upon what's going on for them in their current role. So what's happening in the school for them? How does their current role and what they do on a day-to-day basis support the school key priorities? What's working well for them? What are their strengths? What are they great at? What are their main challenges and obstacles that they're facing right now? And is there anything that they're particularly fearful or anxious around? And a great question that I love to always listen to responses to is what would leaders change if they had a magic wand and could change 5 things instantly? Rather telling. Following this, leaders undergo a detailed 360-degree diagnostic in which they reflect on their own leadership and they receive feedback from a cross-section of peers. In this, it's very, very detailed. There's about 50 different attributes that they reflect upon, as do their peers, including what are their strengths and their areas for development, or what we call even better ifs. It's done in a very constructive and sensitive and supportive way. Upon receiving the feedback, together with myself, we discuss the feedback in a lot of detail, really unpick it, dissect it, and talk about it. And then leaders decide upon 3 key areas that they'd like to choose for 3 specific goals around their own leadership development. And we work on these together for the remainder of the programme. Goals can be really wide-ranging, typically around things such as very practical things such as improving processes and systems in order to be more strategic and less reactive, ranging to much more personal goals. So goals around managing imposter syndrome or that negative critical inner voice and other issues around low confidence. And then over the course of 6 months or 2 terms, we meet online about every 3 or 4 weeks. Sessions typically last 50 minutes to an hour. They're very solution focused and action orientated and aligned to the leader's unique set of circumstances. Meeting every 3 or 4 weeks is regularly enough to just keep the momentum going and continue to build a really strong, trusting relationship, yet just enough time for leaders to take action since the last session and to be held to account. Typically, sessions begin with leaders sharing any actions that they've taken since the last session, and then the rest of the session there's focus around individual leadership goals, school improvement priorities, and other current challenges that the leaders are facing in school. At the end of the session, we round up and agree actions before the next session. And over the course of the journey, leaders will acquire their own bespoke toolkit. They'll acquire guidance materials, templates, models, strategies, theories, top tips around the different areas of leadership development, school improvement, problem solving, and indeed their own well-being. As well as this, there are many organisational benefits. Increased confidence and effectiveness of leaders naturally impacts positively on school improvement and the quality of education, but also investing in leaders in this way supports a really proactive culture of well-being and shows staff that they're really valued. The senior leaders at PolyMAT that I've been working with this year very kindly agreed to share a few words about their coach-sulting journey, and I'll just come off this and share a little video with you now. We've been working together now for a number of months, and I know you're halfway through the Leadership Coach-sulting programme. How are you finding the programme so far?
Yeah, I'm finding it really supportive, and I like the kind of challenge within it as well. But it also feels like it's my personal development. It's something that I'm doing for me to make me a better leader, like, and to enable me to have the impact that I want to have, the reason I applied to do it. So yeah, that's been good.
Okay, how are you finding working with an external independent coach?
Yeah, I mean, I was a little bit worried because obviously you kind of wondering about whether that person knows you and what their understanding is. But I found that, you know, obviously part of the skills are that you have built that kind of rapport with me, and I feel comfortable and safe within that. And it's also, you've like, it makes you realize that the experiences you have in a school are not unique to just that school, you know, that other schools have it, and probably other types of jobs have it as well. So it's been a good kind of non-judgmental, and it feels much more about me than the establishment.
I've been working with Joanna since the autumn, and my sessions with her have been invaluable. I'm very upset actually that I only have 2 sessions left, because they've all been online, and these sessions have given me the opportunity to examine my insecurities and concerns in a safe place, and I know without any worries that everything that I've said will be confidential and won't go back to the trust. But also Joanna has held me to account. So if I've come up with concerns, it's not just about making me feel better, it's about let's explore and examine how we can work on these concerns. Is it me? Is it part to the school? Is it, you know, we examine every aspect of a concern, and she's really focused me on thinking about the bigger picture.
It's the wealth of experience that you bring to the table. You know, she's been in teaching for 25 plus years. She's been a head teacher for 6 years, and it did really filled me with confidence that I've got someone alongside me that's on this journey that's really here to help and support, and to make sure that I can deliver in the school that I'm working at. I'm learning every time I see her, and it's also directed to making sure you move in a certain way to actually accomplish your goals, and even just weaknesses that you want to start strengthening.
So Kim, you've just had a session dedicated to discussing and looking at your peer review.
Yes.
How was that?
It was very enlightening. It was very useful to see how I come across, to see myself through other people's eyes. And it's very rare to get an opportunity to get sort of candid sort of forum for reflection the way I have. It was helpful to go through it with someone like yourself, someone who's very experienced in education, who, you know, even looking at the areas that were not just the strengths, but the areas for development, that you kind of get it as well. Having gone through this, the strengths did help to motivate me, to propel me to keep going, you know, all the positives that came out of the reflection. But it also brought out useful areas for development. And I think through my session with you today, I now have a sense of the 3 areas I'm going to focus on for development. So I'm quite excited to do that, and to do that with you as well.
That's great.
So why do I recommend Joanna Gledhill as a potential mentor or coach for you? It's basically because her knowledge is exceptional. I come to her with issues, with problems, and she just plucks different ideas seemingly from nowhere in her expert knowledge to be able to help me resolve issues, and consequently sort of turns this rough diamond that I think I probably am into more like Venus de Milo. And I'm very, very grateful for all the conversations I've had with her.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Joanna. I mean, it's quite clear from the video how much the colleagues who have worked with you have valued that experience. So, you know, thank you from them again, and thank you from everyone here for coming along tonight and presenting to us.